Welcome back to Rocket Talk, episode 48 here, which means we're almost to our big special episode 50. But that's still a couple episodes away. We got more fun stuff planned before that. Before we jump into a nerd news now, let's do a quick bev check. Jonold, what are you drinking this evening?
Right now, I am drinking Starbucks toasted white chocolate mocha. It is delish, and I love it.
I also enjoy me some Starbucks. I do not have Starbucks. I have a Rogue Newport Nights. It is a nice, fun IPA. The listeners cannot see it, but the can is very much of an 80s synthwave aesthetic. So it has a nice purples and blacks and pinks, and it's awesome. It's a very tasty.
Witty.
It's a very. I bought this mainly because the can looked cool, and then actually it's really tasty. So.
Oh,
Connor, what about you?
Nice. Just a regular old Sam Adams Boston Lager.
Basic.
Basic.
Oh yeah, because I am not going to branch out today. And sorry to bore all the fans. They're expecting.
That's okay. I mean, at least you're drinking a Sam Adams and not some like basic beer like a Coors Light or something like that. As tasty as a Coors Light is.
I can't really call you basic when I'm drinking Starbucks. So.
Good point.
But we have a couple nerd news now topics, and then a few more just like a nice fun thing. First one is Netflix did pass 200 million subscribers, so there's 200 million paid subscribers, and another probably 300 million that are mooching off of it. But
yeah, exactly,
still crazy to see that that's what 2/3 of like the population of the U.S. is like would be 200 million. So that's insane. They added 37 million paid memberships in 2020 because of the pandemic. So,
wow, good for them.
One Honestly, of the few that is booming.
I thought it was going by the wayside, but now more than ever, they have more paid subscribers than anyone else.
Well, it's like we talked about a while ago. Netflix has become like so big that it's become a verb. Like, you could be watching Hulu, and you're still, like, some people still say, I'm going to go Netflix this, or I'm going to go, like, it's such a popular thing that it's kind of becoming its own word,
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yeah,
like
I remember
Kleenex.
Kleenex, Dumpster, Google, Band-Aid, stuff like that. That the product that's become so popular has replaced it. Yeah. It's crazy.
Is Dumpster a product name?
Yes. Jason Offit taught me that.
I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Learn something new
every day. This is an informative podcast. But besides that, another quick one, a nice, let's pay our respects. One to Larry King for passing away. I know, Connor, that had a big impact on you. And then one who didn't die, but one who retired, Takaya Imamura from Nintendo, who created iconic characters like Captain Falcon, Fox McCloud, Majora's Mask, Clocktown Moon, and more, has retired from Nintendo. So, I mean, this is a big big loss, I think, for Nintendo, because that's such an iconic. Those are some iconic characters, and then a moon.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
did you say and a moon?
Yes, but I mean, like he even did he even directed the Steel Diver games, and he was a supervisor for the last couple Smash releases. Obviously he's going to be mainly known because of Fox, Captain Falcon, and Majora's Mask. But it's just insane, like what this is one of the bigger people in Nintendo that's now leaving. Obviously we still have Miyamoto, but having another big name from the height of Nintendo's popularity is now, is now going off to better pastures and enjoying the retirement life.
Yeah, there's a lot of big stuff here, and you guys know me. I'm a huge Majora's Mask fan, so to see, I didn't really, I'll be honest, I'd never heard of him before, but to know that he had such an impact on the designs of two of the creepiest things in Nintendo's history, which is the design of Majora's Mask and the Clocktown Moon, are, oh my gosh, just they give you the willies. So
yeah, so like my Zelda knowledge is pretty it's pretty low, but so like when I was playing Smash, like some of the like newer ones, and Clocktown Moon would show up as like one of the assist trophies. I was like, what weird game is this from? Like, I didn't think it was from Zelda. I thought it was from like just not Zelda. And so I was like, oh, this is from Zelda. Okay. It definitely was very surprising to me. But yeah, hopefully he can enjoy the retirement life. That's just what happens. Not everyone works himself to death, which is a good thing. But yeah, so it'll be a big loss for Nintendo, I think, though, even if he's someone that maybe goes a little uncredited.
Rip, but not rip to a legend.
Yes. And then another one we could quickly talk about, too, is Vicarious Visions is actually merging with Blizzard, and now will only be working with Blizzard. So Activision Blizzard is the parent company that they have Activision and Blizzard properties together. And so Vicarious Visions, who you may know as the developers behind the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy and the Tony Hawk 1 and 2 remakes, as well as many other games in their portfolio, a lot of GBA ports of games like Spider-Man and Crash Bandicoot. They did Crash Nitro Kart and stuff like that. But they are now going to be moving on to helping Blizzard, and so games like World of Warcraft and Overwatch and all that stuff like that. So hopefully that means Tony Hawk joins World of Warcraft soon, and Crash Bandicoot gets added to Overwatch. But yeah, definitely
they need more guns and skateboards in World of Warcraft.
Yes, so. But this is. I think this is pretty big news because Vicarious Visions has been one of the more reliable studios at Activision, which that's not saying a whole lot, but they've done a lot of stuff. Like they've helped out in any type of game you can think of, whether it's they've helped out on Barbie games, Tony Hawk, Spider-Man, SpongeBob, Call of Duty, Skylanders, Guitar Hero. So they've kind of dipped their toes into everything. And so seeing them now having to go and help the Blizzard side of things, it's a big loss, I feel like, for Activision. I know that one of their big things they're doing is they're going to be working on a planned remake of Diablo 2. And obviously they'll just get some good stability behind the product, which is good, but this could have a big impact on some of the big Activision titles like Tony Hawk, Call of Duty, Crash Bandicoot moving forward. So,
yeah. What's your overall opinion when studios acquire other studios?
Well, they've been a part of
for gaming.
So, Vicarious Visions has been owned by Activision since 2005. It just Activision and Blizzard merged together. I can't remember how long ago now, but so it's like this is more just a restructuring. This is not anything like it's not like the studio that made Luigi's Mansion 3 that I'm blanking on right now that they got bought out by Nintendo. Like this was one. This would be like me at my company where I'm an admin assistant for a wheel repair. If that'd be like me getting moved to a different position at corporate or a different position at one of our locations. Like so, there's still it's still part of the Activision Blizzard group. They're just going to be only focusing on the Blizzard side of things instead of so their forte is going to be more of World of Warcraft, StarCraft, Overwatch instead of Call of Duty, Crash Bandicoot, Tony Hawk. So I mean it helps some good companies stay afloat. Sure, we've seen good and bad of it. I'm sure Johnny can attest his disdain for the Microsoft purchase of Rare.
Sad.
But also at the same time we've seen it work for studios. I mean, a big one is ones like Vicarious Visions. After Activision acquired them, they've been able to help make some solid games in there. As much as we like to lambaste the Call of Duty and the Guitar Hero series for being repetitive and kind of, gone on maybe a little too long, like that's still two successful series that they were able to do. And then the Crash Bandicoot and Tony Hawk remakes are considered two of the best remakes that have come out over the past handful of years. So the fact they have both those under their belt and they assisted the Spyro and Crash Team Racing remakes as well, like they have a good forte. So I'm bummed for them. This is, I think, one of the bigger losses from a merger or a restructuring that we've seen in Activision since Neversoft merged into Infinity Ward, the original Tony Hawk developers, and then later Guitar Hero. But I guess this is another one of those where this could have an impact down the line. We won't really know for a few years, but definitely one that me as someone who's enjoyed a lot of their games is bummed to see them get their stuff shifted over.
Yeah, definitely.
But this one is more of a but why here. There is a Willy Wonka prequel with the Paddington director jumping on to direct the film. So, insert the Ryan Reynolds but why gif here. But seriously, why do we need this? Why do we need a Willy Wonka prequel to come out in 2023 on St. Paddy's Day? Who's asking this?
File this under things nobody asked for.
Yeah,
Exactly.
let me fucking rant here. These types of movies take away all of the magic that makes characters like Willy Wonka special. And as soon as you start explaining all the little questions you have about magic and this wonder that he brings to the story, it's as soon as you try to explain it away, now it's all gone. All the mystique is gone, and there's no point in having. Well, okay, I'm not gonna say there's no point, but it's not as fun anymore, and it's just like, fucking why?
It's unnecessary. There's not source material of this. There's like we're not getting something where this was another book that they're adopting to it. Like they're just taking the idea of Wonka, of Willy Wonka as a character, and they're going to adopt it into a thing. And then, the other question too is, so is this going to be a prequel to the Tim Burton movie? Is this going to be a prequel to the 70s with Gene Wilder? Which version of Willy Wonka are they going to go with? Because that'll change things. Like, what weird things are they going to put in that, like, don't need to be in there? They're just, like, it's such a weird take. And then on top of that, it's another original idea that, won't be able to make its way through to Hollywood. There's not much original ideas left. So, like, it probably wasn't going to happen anyways, but I just don't get what Warner Brothers is doing here. And like, that's a whole discussion that we could have on a whole nother episode about just the whole idea of the current film industry, especially with its nostalgia and spin-offs and sequels and prequels. There's not too many original ideas left.
And not only that, but they're also considering Tom Holland and Timothée Chalamet for the lead for Willy Wonka himself. And I love both of those actors, but neither of them screams Willy Wonka to me. Like, it makes it seem as if they're picking two really big names of young adult actors, but it's like they couldn't care less if that actually fits who the character is supposed to be. And I'm not going to say that, this character of Willy Wonka is like outside of their acting range or anything, but I don't know. I can't be alone in thinking this, right?
Yeah.
I also am on the same line of thought as you.
Yeah, this is just them. It's an easy way that they're going to sell tickets because, like, they're two well-received men by those who are attracted to males. They are two, that
Luke,
you see.
You can say they're hot.
True, they are hot.
They are,
but that is the teen heartthrobs like type of thing. Like, they're going to get a lot of male and females who like find them very attractive to go see the movie. And so, like, that's nice, but like, why do we do this? Why did they not just do like Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator instead, like the sequel to Willy Wonka? Like, there's just so many things that they could have done.
Exactly. Like, honestly, Tim Burton's movie was already sort of a kind of backstory to Willy Wonka anyways, because he was so obsessed with, like, his father was an orthodontist who didn't let him have candy. Then he had it and became obsessed and traveled around the world for, candy and all that. So we already kind of have it, even if it's not a great movie.
Are you excited for the Fantastic Mr. Fox spin-off with one of the random characters that, like, no one asked for? I'm sure that'll be good because Fantastic Mr. Fox is really good. But
it is a fantastic film.
But are you excited for that to happen? Because that's probably going to happen too.
I don't know, because as much as I love Fantastic Mr. Fox, and if they're going to continue the story, I want to get excited about it, but also I love it so much that, the fact that it's just its own story right then and there makes it special too, and if you continue it and it's not good, then I'll just be disappointed. So I guess I would go in with cautious optimism.
You're saying that you don't want a Frank Bean spin-off? What?
I'm just saying it's not the best idea, but if you make it, I'll go see it.
Okay, perfect.
I'm not going to see it.
maybe a spin-off that
freaks me out.
if Wes Anderson is doing it, then I would still have high hopes for it because he is a fantastic director and is in a lot of great movies. But that's kind of a fun tangent. But another one of those. But why? So
yeah.
Our last nerd news now was actually one that I was very excited to shit on this company, and then because of cyberbullying, they went back on it. So first up, guys, cyberbullying works. But so if you have not been in the gaming news over the past right around Friday and Saturday, Xbox Live Gold's price was going to be increasing. So we were going to see the Xbox Live price of the 1 month, 3 month, and 6 months go up. We lost the 12-month one a while ago. I want to say last year, and so the pricing was going to go up to $10.99 for 1 month over $9.99, $29.99 for 3 months up from $24.99, and then there's going to be a 6 month for $59.99, which is the same price for a 12-month subscription of PlayStation Plus.
Just disgusting.
As much as we love to praise Microsoft for doing pro-consumer moves over the years, they do that, and then they're like, hey, we still suck, and then they'll do something like this that would set them like 5 steps back. Luckily, because everyone was talking about how this is bad, because 6 months for $60 is ridiculous. Like, especially when your main competitor, you can get 6 months for free in that price point, and then Nintendo, even though Nintendo Switch Online is nowhere near as robust as Xbox Live Gold or PlayStation Plus, that's $20 a year, and you can play iconic games like Mario and Zelda and stuff like that. Sure, is $120 a year worth the value that is Xbox Live Gold? Probably, with all the free games you get, all of the exclusive deals. Sure, but I'm glad they went back on this. I was excited to bash on Microsoft. On top of this as well, one of the other things we are seeing changed is Microsoft will finally also be getting rid of the need of having a gold membership to play free-to-play games like Fortnite, Warzone, Rocket League, and stuff like that, because Nintendo and Sony haven't had that for a while. I mean, it took a while before Xbox even got rid of having gold to use Netflix. So we're finally seeing Microsoft make some good changes as well. Game Pass is still a great value, and that's probably why they were going to be increasing the price, but it is nice to see them change on this. What are your guys' big thoughts on this Microsoft blunder?
I just love that it's another example of, yet again, the internet deciding what they want, and that's what they're going to get.
Yes. It's much like you, I was also thinking, like, this walks back everything that you've been doing to show consumers that you do have them in mind when you're making business decisions. But the bullying, I'm not endorsing bullying, but I am saying it's effective. I'm saying it's effective in getting your way, and it's just it does warm my soul to see consumers speaking out and forcing a mega corporation to change its practices because it was so shitty.
And cyberbully a corporation all you want, because they're still corporations. Like, don't cyberbully the poor social media intern who's running Xbox's Twitter, but cyberbully Phil Spencer and all the other high ups there. As great as Phil Spencer's been for the Xbox brand, like, he obviously had to have approved on this, and now they're like, look, we listened to the consumers, and it's like, I mean, you did, but like, you also
you got shamed into it. At the end of the day, Phil Spencer can go home and cry in his millions.
Exactly. Yeah. So
you've heard of Cyberpunk 2077. This is Cyberbully 2021.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I think there is a franchise called Bully, isn't there?
Yes.
A video game series
made by Rockstar, the ones who make GTA. So it's people have their long holdouts that we might see a Bully sequel, but Rockstar's like, but why, when we have all this GTA 5 money? Because GTA 5 still sells like hotcakes every year.
Their first their Bully game, and it's very good.
Yeah, Rockstar makes some incredible games. People, I mean, like GTA and Red Dead are both incredible games as well. But it'd be nice if they branched out to their other IPs that they've had, Midnight Club and Bully and some of these others that have had some great games. But, oh well, that's besides a different point. But I'm just glad that cyberbullying, Microsoft worked, and now the prices aren't going up. So hopefully now we can see the price stay. I mean, even if they wanted to do a couple of these price points, it's fine. But the 6 month, I think, is what really pissed people off, because $1 extra for a month. I mean, okay, $5 maybe was a little steep, but it was still cheaper to pay for 3 months than 1 month. But yeah, six months for $60 was quite pricey. So, and like that wasn't, you weren't saving money over the 3 month. Like, that's the whole reason why these things are like that. Because on PlayStation, it's $9.99 for a month, $24.99 for 3 months, or $59.99 for 12 months. So you end up saving a lot of money if you get the bigger chunks. Where this one, you would save $1 if you went from the 1 month to the 3 or 6 month. So cyberbullying more corporations, so this happens. But
do it. I mean, this is comparable to when consumers found out Apple was slowing down their older devices. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, I would say
it's in a similar vein.
We knew about this coming, where we didn't know until people figured it out. But yeah, it's the same type of thing of a company doing a shitty practice and trying to get away with it because they want to. Oh, consumers are dumb. But another nice way of cyberbullying working. So cyberbully all the corporations, but now
just corporations.
Yes,
just
don't cyberbully real
corporations.
people.
Rocket Talk does not even kind of endorse bullying of individuals. Just stick
Unless they're Nazis.
to. No, I guess
Those
that goes without
aren't people,
saying.
though, so.
True. But with that, we can now move on into our topic of the week. So this is a little fun one. The idea is kind of repairing an IP. So, the question I asked Johnny and Connor to think about an IP, gaming, film, TV, etc., that needs some work to get it to its full potential. Like if one of us would have picked Disney, have an actual plan for the sequel trilogy of Star Wars, or things like helping the Madden series get back to its glory after years and years and years of people wanting EA off the project. So just kind of going over some things that this product or idea would need to get to where we want to see it as a consumer. So Connor, let's start with you. I know you have a band actually for this one.
Yes, I do. Because of your great idea, I was having some trouble thinking of an IP I wanted to go with, and LP was like, well, hey, how about music? And I didn't even think of that because I are dumb. So I chose a band that's been a little bit more polarizing for people that are huge fans of rock, specifically classic rock. I chose Greta Van Fleet. And just for context, I love Greta Van Fleet. I think there's so much potential, but they had a great start with their first album, From the Fires. It was a total success. Their debut single, Highway Tune, has over 102 million streams as of this recording. And they took a step back, however. They came off as extremely derivative of Led Zeppelin. However, they do have a lot of promise and buzz. When their first album drops, people think that this is going to be the next big thing to bring rock and roll back. But their sophomore album, Anthem of the Peaceful Army, killed that momentum they had. It sounds even more like Led Zeppelin. I mean, so bad that it's almost criminal how much they stole from Led Zeppelin's sound. This is where a lot of hate started coming their way. And, this is also where I could go into a tangent about how fickle rock and roll fans are and how hypocritical they are, but I will save that for later if either of you are down to bitch about rock fans with me. I think they get way more hate than they deserve, but, that's a combo we can also have later. Now, I know what both of you are thinking, especially Johnny, being such a huge classic rock fan. Connor,
Absolutely.
All of Led Zeppelin's early work is a blatant ripoff of other bands. That it is, but where I'm coming from is that it isn't either better or worse. It's just more of a continuation of something that shouldn't be happening, as blatant, as obvious as it is. It's one thing to wear your influences on your sleeve when making an album, but it's another thing to become less original than you previously were. It's borderline plagiarism at this point. I mean, that being said, Robert Plant also gives the band his thumbs up, so, I mean, I guess, you're free to do so, but here's where they actually need to go. What they need now is to take their sound and give it a modern kick in the pants, which they already do. I mean, I'm not talking technically. It already sounds good. It's produced serviceably by Marlon Young, Al Sutton, and Herschel Boone. What they need is to start pulling influences from other classic rock bands if they want to stick with that sound, and get themselves a George Martin-esque producer. You know, George Martin helped the Beatles write a lot of their songs and helped them branch out musically. He did a lot more than that, but I can gush about him later. I think if they start pulling in other influences, it should be more experimental bands like Yes, like Genesis, like Rush, because the lead singer, Josh, I want to say Kiszka, even sounds a little bit like Geddy Lee at certain parts in certain tracks of their, especially of Anthem of the Peaceful Army. Let me give some actual solutions, though, because why should I leave it really vague? They are awakening the love of classic rock in the young, and that means there are plenty of roots they could introduce the young audience to. Led Zeppelin was influenced heavily by folk music and artists like Burt Jansch, and R&B. Albert King was a huge influence on them. I can't go into all these names of artists they stole from, or borrowed from. But you can take a modern approach to all the classics. People our age aren't as appreciative of our favorite artists' influences. So at that point, you have free range. You can take it right, left, up, down, sideways, as long as your influences are subtly in there. You won't make it insulting to everyone. And one more thing, they have an underrated bassist in Sam Kiszka. If he has the chops, have him be the focal point of certain tracks more often. They are not giving enough love to bass guitar, but then again, it wasn't until late 70s, early 80s when bass guitar was even heard, because at first they didn't really have the technology to even hear the bass or care, but that's another conversation. You know, letting the bass be the focal point will actually offer up a lot of creative paths to take. Again, this would depend on their bassists being comfortable in a role like that, but if you listen to him, he's actually really, really good. This could help maybe a more Rush-like influence come out. So if you take in each artist's strengths and you give them the focal point at certain places, and even let them create the tracks themselves and be the lead. I mean, some of them might not even be great writers, but you let them write a little bit more often. I think there's plenty of paths that this band can take, and yeah, I'll leave it at that. But
yeah, I think like one of the biggest things that they can do is they can take some inspiration, as you mentioned, the Beatles with John Lennon's son Sean Lennon and Les Claypool with the Claypool Lennon Delirium. Like that's the one where you can hear that they're trying for a more psychedelic 70s rock style, but you listen to that and you're not hearing, oh, this is this psychedelic rock band, or this is that. Like, it's not just a singular band that you're hearing with this, where you listen to Greta Van Fleet and it's basically Led Zeppelin. Like, it's like, hey, you want Led Zeppelin, but you didn't get the rights to Led Zeppelin. Like that's what a lot of their especially their full length album was. So
exactly, it's like ordering Led Zeppelin on Wish.
Exactly, or their store brand Led Zeppelin, and like it's still good, but it's not the real thing. And yeah, like they can bring a lot of this classic rock style to a younger group, where it's not just as Pitchfork described it, boomer fetishism. Like it's like they can
Pitchfork
have
gave it a 1.6, man. That's low.
Yeah, they were not a fan of it, you know, and because half baked boomer fetishism and a 49-minute drag. So you know, it was definitely not a mixed album, especially after those first couple EPs. So I agree. As someone who I can't remember who showed me Greta Van Fleet first, but right around the time of when Black Smoke Rising and From the Fires was just starting to get popular, it was fun to see. Oh, hey, like this sounds like New Zeppelin. Like that's fun, but they never got past that initial surface level. And I think what you said was a lot of good stuff. You know, I as someone who is more novice in listening to Greta Van Fleet and some more classic rock, maybe compared to you, I still think this is a great idea, because you know we can see this genre kind of continue to get revitalized. And because we see stuff like that. I mean, my beer can that I'm drinking has that very like 80s like synthwave type of thing, and like that's been it's still kind of underground, but like that's been something that has been getting a lot more popular over the last few years, with things like Stranger Things and others having a very strong synth soundtrack. It's like we're seeing people get back into that 80s style, so we could see that same thing with Greta Van Fleet. People can get back into that classic rock style because of a band like Greta Van Fleet being the gateway to people discovering Zeppelin, Rush, and all these other bands.
Yeah, they heard that they sound like Led Zeppelin, and they know that they sound like Led Zeppelin. Then their next album, they're like, "Oh, you want more Led Zeppelin? You want even more? You want less creativity? You've got less creativity." And then that's where like, no, take it back. And go your own way, because if you sound like Led Zeppelin, there are worse bands to sound like. They can still be themselves without needing to rely on being famous because they're the new Led Zeppelin band. They only have the 2 albums right now. They are very young, and they've got plenty of time to branch out and create more original content. Honestly, I am more hopeful for them. I think if their next album is
which comes out in April.
Yeah, if their next album is less like Led Zeppelin, I will be so happy. But if it's if it's just another one of their Anthem of the Peaceful Army, then I'll be really, really disappointed.
Yeah, Johnny, I know that since you aren't as much of a classic rock person, so I'm sure it's a little harder for you to fully get, okay, like, yeah, this would be nice. But from you on the outside looking in, what would you maybe want to see a band like this, where it's basically a carbon copy, do then? Like, is Connor's idea a good idea, or are there things you would add to that?
Well, it's hard for me to get too specific, just because, like you said, I'm not very educated in this field. But I think the most important thing is just to listen to the fans, and there's no way to know. There's no way to appease all of your fans. That's just impossible. There's no way of doing that. But maybe go back and think, what is it about our earlier stuff that is so popular that people loved a lot more compared to some of the newer stuff? And not only that, but the apparent change, according to what you've said, Connor, from how they've progressed and how it's copying other artists. I think that goes to show, I mean, it's possible that there's been an adaptation to their music, but it's also possible that they were just doing it to appease their fans, and then it blew up in their faces. And I think that I'm not, I don't think it's hard to, I don't think it's hard to assume that most artists who are doing well and having a lot of success are doing so well because they're having fun playing exactly the music that they love. And they're not doing it necessarily for their fans. They're playing for their fans, but they're making the music that they want to make. And there's something about the change in style that you've explained, Connor, that makes me think that might be taking a step or two away from what they really feel passionate about. So, and maybe that's not the case. Maybe they've just grown, like I said, is also a possibility. But if it is the fact that they're just trying to appease the fans more than they're trying to stay really committed to the music that they want to play, then that could be why it's gone downhill.
Yeah, it definitely is a tricky slope to go down, because like a couple bands I can think of that they changed their sound, and I think it worked, but because it wasn't as well received, then they kind of went back to it. Census Fail is a perfect example. They went from the more post-hardcore, where it's like still has some very like standard alternative rock with it, mixed with some screaming and heavy guitars, and then they went to more of a heavier tone with a lot of hardcore elements with Answer and Pull the Thorns from Your Heart. But those were their worst received in terms of streams, and their album that came out after, If There's a Light It'll Find You, goes back more to that sound. But I don't feel like they were as genuine with their, like, that felt more forced in If There's a Light It'll Find You than how emotional Pull the Thorns from Your Heart and Answer were, because they were very emotional albums that they had moved to. and then they were trying to chase that still searching, let it unfold you style vibes that got them popular. Another one that I think that we saw people poorly receive it was Mayday Parade with their album Black Lines. It was very experimental for them. A lot of heavier guitar tones and some new styles that they did, more grungy vibes to it, and it was great. It up until their successor, it was probably my favorite album by them. And then with Sunnyland, they kind of went back to some of an older sound, but then mixed some of those Black Line vibes in. So I thought it was like their perfect sound. Or Blink-182 is another example where California felt like they were trying to make a new Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, where Nine felt more like they were trying to make a Blink-182 album in 2019. So it's a tricky slope. You can do it and it'll work, and sometimes you can do it and the fans will hate it. So.
But I think the fans can also tell, like you were already saying, like the fans can tell when it's genuine or when a band is just being bullied into going outside of where they're comfortable with. But at the same time, fans also box artists in where they're not allowed to experiment. Like the Beatles and Bob Dylan are two fantastic examples of, as soon as they wanted to experiment and go outside their comfort zone of folk and pop, the fans hated it. And Bob Dylan fans in particular protested and were screaming all sorts of obscenities, taking axes to amplifiers and stuff. But thankfully, both the Beatles and Bob Dylan did it in such a genuine way where eventually the fans were like, actually, you know what, this ain't too bad. So that's we got still plenty of time to see what we can get from Greta Van Fleet, and
they're still a very young band. I mean, they've only been around since 2012, and like they're all only a little bit older than us. Like they're all pretty young, so we could see this last a while.
Yeah. So
awesome. Well, I can move into mine then. So mine is another one that's kind of not one I think that people would fully expect if they've been keeping up with the series. But my big one is Call of Duty needs to take...
Oh.
No, but Call of Duty needs to take 2021 off, using Black Ops, Cold War, Warzone, and Modern Warfare Success to carry them in this gap year. So I think we don't need a new mainline game. There's a few reasons for that. Even though right now we are probably in the most successful run the series has ever had, because Modern Warfare became the best-selling game in the series. Warzone is incredibly popular, and Black Ops Cold War was one of the best-selling games last year. But we need some time off. The Call of Duty series has been up and down and very divisive for most of the PS4, Xbox One generation, and then now moving into the new generation of PS5, Xbox Series X. After we had the jetpack era of the more futuristic titles that really changed up the way the games was played, and then some of the boots in the ground gameplay was kind of a mixed bag in quality with games like World War II and Modern Warfare having some good ideas but not executed the best. So you throw that in with the issues that both Modern Warfare and Cold War have had with skill-based matchmaking, the abundance of glitches, and then on top of that, just some poor design choices. It's hurt the games from being considered some of the best in the series. So I said this last week. Cold War should have been delayed, and especially when you throw in the fact that Cold War wasn't supposed to be out this year. It was supposed to be another Sledgehammer title who did Advanced Warfare and World War II, but apparently the game was in such a rough state early in development that in the spring of 2019, while Treyarch was still supporting Black Ops 4, they said, hey, you and Raven are going to split this game, and you're going to do a new Black Ops game. It's going to come out in 2020. So, hey, all these ideas you had for Black Ops 5 or whatever you were going to do, your next game that's going to come out in 2021, now you got to put it up here, and you got to do that. Also, you have to finish supporting Black Ops 4, and that's why I think Black Ops 4's tail end of its life cycle felt half-baked as well. So you throw all these things in, and then you throw in the pandemic and the new consoles. That's why Cold War was not as polished as some of the other more recent Call of Duties have been, even though they haven't been the most polished either. So, obviously, you can't. They didn't know the pandemic was going to severely limit it, but I still think that we should have seen a slight delay, even if it had been a month or two. then that could have been it. But I think one of the other reasons is it just needs it. So the Call of Duty series started in 2003 with the original Call of Duty released on PC. 2004 they spun off and had a couple spin-off console games and expansions, and then starting in 2005 with Call of Duty 2 on the Xbox 360 and PC. Since then, there's been a brand new mainline Call of Duty every single year. So that's 15 straight years of October, November rolls around, there's a new COD. And wow. There's been some great games, and they've been able to do it, especially as they brought in the 2 and then the 3 developer cycle to give them time. It's worked, but at the same time, just like we saw with Assassin's Creed, it might be time to take a gap year. Let the series recharge a little. Assassin's Creed did that, and while some people may not have liked the last couple titles, it has helped revitalize the series, like we've seen with Valhalla, and like it was stuff that the series needed, because Origins came out and after the mess of Unity, and it was nice to see them take that time to allow the games to really flesh out, and that's why people have really loved Odyssey a lot more than it might have been if they had tried to rush it out like they have been in the past. So it'd be good to take a year off. And on top of that too, since we are in probably the most successful in terms of sales and money, the Call of Duty series can afford it. The Modern Warfare, Warzone, Black Ops Cold War, when I was putting together some of my notes Friday afternoon, had about 120,000 people streaming on Twitch across the 3 games. So like that's a ton. Obviously games like Counter-Strike Go and Fortnite and GTA have around the same numbers, but they're still big games. But it's like Call of Duty is just as popular, if not more popular than ever. So they can use these last couple big games to keep it going, and then take a way to kind of figure out, okay, what do they want to do with the series moving forward? Because they've been trying to mix the competitive aspects of shooters with the more casual arcade style the series is known for. So they just need to figure out, okay, how do we want to take the series moving forward now that we're approaching the 20th anniversary of the series being out, and we've had countless games. We've had 15 plus years of these games coming out. What can they do? And it would just be nice, because I am really hesitant for whatever this year's game is, if it is a Sledgehammer game, and if it is a new title and type of things. Like I might not buy it unless it does something that really blows me away. And I've been saying that for like the last 5 or 6 years, and then there's been some way to drag me back in. But with some of the issues I've had with Modern Warfare and Black Ops Cold War, despite them being good games foundationally, I think that I'm one of the ones who is not alone and think it's about time to take a year off. And if they really want a title, Modern Warfare 2, they did the campaign remaster last year, and I'm sure that they did a multiplayer remaster, and that's just sitting on some Activision server somewhere waiting for them to release it. So if they really want that, do that. That's a very easy and successful release. They'll get tons of sales on that one, even if the gameplay is just as bad as Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer did. People's nostalgia glasses won't matter, and that game will sell like hotcakes. So take the year off from a mainline game, maybe do a remaster, but let the series, kind of find itself again. We've seen it with a few others, like I mentioned with Assassin's Creed. I know Need for Speed Heat is one of the more well-received Need for Speed games in quite some time as well, because they took some time off, figured out what they wanted to do. It was about a 2-year gap between when Payback and Heat came out. So they were able to take time and figure out what they wanted to do with the series and how they want to push it forward. And it's one of the best received Need for Speed games that we've seen in close to a decade. So hopefully Call of Duty follows the same lights. I know both of you guys are not very big Call of Duty gamers, but hopefully you can agree with me that the series should probably just take a year off.
Yeah,
Yes.
I definitely, when you said that's exactly what I was thinking is, I'm not a big fan of the series. I would certainly like to, jump in at some point once I get the PS5, but just to, give it a shot. But yeah, I think that's kind of what it might need, because there's so many series out that don't get enough love, which is something I'll talk about soon. But on the other side, it's when games that just when the game comes out in the series every single year for 15 years, that is a little much. And there's no way. I mean, I know that's kind of a joke that games like COD are predictable, but that's only because it's been out for so long, and there's only so much you can do with the formula. But if you do take time to step back and have a year to reflect and just think, what can we do differently this year, then that could be exactly what it needs to breathe new life into the series. But
exactly, because we don't need a new Call of Duty every year. We don't need a new Assassin's Creed of a mainline game. They can do spin-offs and remasters. Nintendo puts out a new Zelda game basically every year, but we only get a mainline Zelda game a couple times a console generation. We don't get they take their time, and they'll do spin-offs and remakes and stuff like that. Like, we got a Zelda game last year, and we'll probably get stuff this year because of the anniversary, but we got the Hyrule Warriors spin-off, and that plays a lot different from Breath of the Wild, from the Link's Awakening remake from 2019, and there's so many different things that it plays different than. So they were able to keep the series fresh, but also not burn it to the ground. And we don't need a new one every year. We don't need a new Madden every year, but that one makes a little more sense because there's new rosters. There's some in some sport games there's new teams. There's new uniforms, new stadiums. So there's new stuff that every year in football, soccer, basketball, that there's a reason why having a new game makes sense. Where Call of Duty, there doesn't need to be a new game every year. As someone who has spent stupid amount of hours, I've been playing Call of Duty since either March or April of 2008. So that means that I'm coming up on 13 years of playing the series. I'm going to be 26 in June. That means I've been playing Call of Duty for half my life. So wow. I've put a lot of time in that game, as bad as that sounds. But I mean, I put a lot of time in the series, and there's been a lot of it that I've enjoyed. Do you think that game sales are the only thing keeping them from taking a year off or taking time off at all? Probably. Activision is a bunch of dirty money hogs. So yes, I mean even the poorer received Call of Duty, Infinite Warfare is considered one of the worst Call of Duties. Which I feel is a little harsh because that game probably has the best story mode in the series.
Even worse than Ghosts?
Yeah, Infinite Warfare has one of the most disliked YouTube videos of all time for the trailer. Infinite Warfare though is one of the worst Call of Duties, but it was still the top selling game in the US in November 2016 when it came out. It underperformed, but it still sold extremely well. So it's even their worst game was still one of the best games in 2016 in terms of sales. So and it sold great with its microtransactions as well. So unless the series crashes and burns with one of these next titles, which with how popular Modern Warfare was and how successful Black Ops still is, I don't really know if we're going to see that happen, where we're going to see the series, kind of crash and burn like we saw with Guitar Hero. But maybe I'm wrong. I just think it'd be better to take that year off. They have two good games. As much as they frustrate me with some of their different elements, Modern Warfare and Cold War are both really good games. And if they can just fix a couple little things, then they can be even better. And then we can have two good games they can lean off of for an extra year. Use Warzone's popularity to keep that going as well. Fix the bugs that are in that, because the Cold War integration to Warzone was a mess. But just let the series get a recharge. It would be better, I think, for everyone involved. It'd be better for the developers. It'd be better for the fans. And it would just be a smart move. So hopefully Activision is listening to this and they listen to me. I know they're not, but...
no, they are.
Well, they're probably listening, but they're not going to listen to me. It took Activision years of people complaining about the microtransactions in the loot boxes before they finally took them out, because every other company took out microtransactions, and there was threat of legal action across different countries. So that's why.
On the bright side, I know Activision is listening to Rocket Talk because they are fans.
Yes.
So
make a Crash Team Racing sequel, please. But yeah, hopefully we get a year off. I'm cautiously optimistic that we will see the series get a nice revitalization soon, but hopefully I'm right.
Do you think that would be within the next 3 or 4 years?
I hope so. It almost I think it just needs it at this point, because like I said, like just releasing a game every year for 15 straight years, like even if it's 3 different studios, and like there's burnout where they're running out of ideas. So there are 8 zombies maps in Black Ops 4. 4 of them are reimaginings of maps from previous Black Ops 1 and 2 games. So like the maps play a lot different from the original. There's new areas, and some of them are completely expanded. And the first map in Black Ops Cold War is a reimagine of another map. So they've done that. The season pass in Black Ops Cold War came with 12 multiplayer maps, and after they forced Treyarch to do Cold War, they put like either 2 or 3 Black Ops 1 maps in the season pass, so people, instead of a new map, got a remake of a map. So they're kind of running out of ideas, I feel like, at times. I mean, that's why we have our 5th Black Ops game in the past decade, and we are on our 4th Modern Warfare game as well, even though they took a couple years off to do a couple different new IPs. But it needs it. I love the series as much as it frustrates me at times. I still have, I've made a lot of great friends on that. I've got closer to some of my friends because of it. But it'd be nice to not be buying a Call of Duty this year. Whether that's me just boycotting it for personal reasons, or because Activision is just like, okay, take a breather. So that is mine. Johnny, I know you also have a video game that you foreshadow a little bit too. So what is your IP that we're going to get the old fixin' up to?
Well, looking at all 3 of what we've come up with, I actually love that we've got something different. So Connor has something that was good and then got, a little less good as time went on. Luke, you've got something that just has gone stale because it's done the same thing for so long. And me, I have something that was really great and then for some reason never came back. It's been 20 years and it's never came back. My IP is Conquer the Squirrel. Especially from Conquer's Bad Fur Day specifically. It's got a cast of really cute animal characters, like Conquer the Squirrel, his girlfriend Barry, and many other characters. Yet it is a rated M game. It is something that is very unheard of to have such a adorable looking box art, to have I guess the box art for this game itself isn't necessarily adorable, but to see some different pictures, you could see parents out there probably bought a lot of parents probably bought their kids this game and thinking that it was a kids game, only to find out that it was not, and my parents are included in that. So yeah, I
remember the story.
When I was like 6 or 7, I remember. Well, in their defense, I also thought that it was a kids game. But I did in Diddy Kong Racing. That was a good game of mine when I was really young, like 5 or 6. And Conquer the Squirrel is one of the racers in that game. And so when I heard that Conquer's Bad Fur Day came out, I thought, well, this is great. Like, I want to play a game with a really awesome, cute character. Only to find out that it is very mature sure. And I learned a lot of things at 6 from this game that I should not have learned for many years. But it is the only game that I've ever seen that's like this. That is that, you know, like I said, has the appearance of something that's kid friendly, only to, you know, not be whatsoever. And I'm really not sure. It did really well. A lot of people seem to really love it. The demographic is there for, you know, it was aimed obviously to people older than me, but a lot of kids my age happened to get it. So it was kind of that might have something to do with it, with the I'm sure that there was some pushback with angry parents who didn't realize that there was going to be really, really inappropriate themes in sexual nature. Drugs and alcohol is involved, and just a lot of violence as well. It was N64 graphics, so there's you know, blood, I guess, but it was really cheesy looking blood. But anyway, yeah, I think that it's a great series, if you want to call it that. There's 2 games technically in the series. The first one is it's called Conker's Pocket Tales, and that is a actual kid-friendly game. I've never played that one before. But then Conker's Bad Fur Day came out in 2001 on the N64 and got a remake 4 years later called Conker Live and Reloaded. It's exactly the same adventure. There's a bunch of extra multiplayer options, and in those 4 years, if you look online and Google Conker's Bad Fur Day versus Conker Live and Reloaded graphics, it is like night and day. I don't know how they made the graphics so good in 4 years, but 2005 Conker is phenomenal looking. But it is still, even though it's the second game, it's still a remake. It's just a better looking remake, but it's not actually a sequel. So I would love for 2021 or 2022 to release or to announce and release a sequel, a proper sequel to this game. And I'm an adult now, so obviously I would fit in the demographic for who the series would aim towards, as same as both of you. But yeah, it's just there's something about this that I'm surprised that it hasn't happened yet. A lot of people love Mario, a lot of people love, you know, Banjo and Crash and Sonic, and a lot of platformers, and this is a platformer game. It's an action-adventure, also platformer, and it just surprises me that this is the one with its rating, with its themes, that is what makes it stand out from the rest of the other ones I just mentioned, and yet it hasn't come back.
Well, especially too because we're in a platformer like renaissance right now, with how the like stuff like Mario Odyssey and like Sonic Mania, the Crash remakes, like how well received those all were. We have that, and then Microsoft's over here with a couple, you know, good platformers with this and with Banjo, and they're just like, no.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, you forgot too, there is that one Young Conquer Microsoft HoloLens trailer that came out that everyone hated, and there's that that Project Spark game has the little Conquer expansion where it's just like a small story 10 years after Bad Fur Day. But yeah, it's like outside of Rare Replay, getting that game included with all the other big name Rare games, like, yeah, we haven't really seen this game in about this series in 15, almost 16 years now. It's just like, yeah, why?
And that's just the better version. It's been 20 years now since a new concept has actually come out. So yeah, it's been too long, and I would guarantee if they made a sequel, you guys would both love it. It's got enough that's different about it, that it's got the parts that I love as far as gameplay, but then it's got the themes that are just so bonkers and bananas that you would be surprised is in this game or in a potential sequel.
Yeah, it's a lot of like South Park and Happy Tree Friends vibes for those.
I was gonna say Happy Tree Friends, yeah,
because it's the same. Yeah. It's a lot of the same stuff, yeah. Because I remember I first found out about Conker because of G4, which actually was where Happy Tree Friends was on as well. It's that same stuff where it's kind of like what happened when like The Simpsons and Family Guy were first on the air, because like that was like so crazy to see a cartoon that had like adult humor in it, and then shows like South Park made The Simpsons, look like the most family friendly cartoon out there, just like how Happy Tree Friends and Conker did the same thing.
Yeah, I actually, in my notes here, I have, I compared it a lot to South Park, because, I mean, obviously everybody now knows that if you know the animation of South Park, if you're watching it, you know what it is, so it's really hard to say that, that looks kid-friendly, but, in a world, let's say, like 20 years ago, not everybody did know about South Park, and so if you did see something like South Park that looks kid-friendly, you would watch it for a little bit, and then the parents would sit their, 5 or 6 year olds down to watch South Park and realize, oh no, this is not what they're supposed to be watching.
And people are still just stupid too. I mean, we
that's true.
We still see it, like we still see these M-rated games that there's some sort of controversy because of some sort of violent thing in there that a kid saw. It's like, I mean, the game is rated M. Like, sure, they may have snuck by and got it, but like, you go and you try to buy a M-rated game at Walmart, GameStop, Target, whatever, and you are not a parent or you don't look like you're an adult, they will be like, hey, can I see your ID? Are you over 17? Or if there's been so many times I've been in a GameStop and there's been the GameStop employee explaining to the mom how there's strip clubs and there are so many things in GTA 5 that they're about to buy for their 10-year-old. And like some parents are like, yeah, I know. Yeah. And the other's like, wait, you never told me that. Like, and GTA has been around for forever too, and like with the hot coffee mod and some of the other big name things that happen in that game, like there's a lot of stuff that people should know about it, and that's a popular series. So I can only imagine something like Conquer, which was a lot less popular than the juggernaut of GTA. So it's
funny thing is, like, I was if I was like 10 to 14 and I was playing Conquer, there would be a lot of stuff that I would understand. There'd be I'd be like, okay, this is obviously I'm not the demographic for this. This is over, this is more mature than I should. I would still enjoy it, but I would recognize that it's more mature than I'm supposed to, be playing. But when I was 5 or 6 and playing this, the game starts off and it's all about him getting drunk and trying to find his way home because he got lost. And he got drunk, and I just thought he was sick. Like, he was throwing up everywhere, and I was just like, oh wow, he must have drank a lot of soda or something. I'm not really sure. He's throwing up, so I'm not sure what's going on. I remember it just going completely over my head because I remember my mom reacting and saying, how is this okay? This is not okay. And like having me turn it off, and she wasn't like, she wasn't like, oh, I gotta call somebody and complain. She was just like, this is obviously not for you. And I had no idea why. I was so young. I didn't know what was, I didn't know these things existed. So, I remember just being confused about a lot of it. So once I got, a year or two older, then I, tried to, look around and try to find wherever my parents had hid the Conquer game in their bedroom dresser or something like that. This is a game that, for reasons that I'm sure I'm not alone in experiencing, definitely stands out to me, and for a lot of others, I'm sure. But now that I'm an adult, now that I can appreciate it, there's a lot of things that, like South Park, there's 20 years worth of references that they can make. There's 2 decades worth of material to draw from that is, that fits with the time. And just like South Park does that every episode, that's a lot of what Conquer was. It was, it's got a lot of 90s humor because, of course, it came out in the 90s, and so that's where they draw a lot of the references from. And it would be there would be so easy and obvious in-game jokes about, money grubbing CEOs reviving like otherwise dead series, and it would be such a funny thing for them to do and to joke at themselves, because that is something that Rare likes to do. They did it with Banjo-Kazooie all the time. Obviously, that's more kid-friendly, but with Conquer, it would be a lot of fun to see them, poking fun at themselves and saying, oh, they'll revive anything after so long. It's just for money these days, and obviously they'd be talking about that game. So I could see that happening. I could see a lot of the characters coming back, like the breasted sunflower, the great mighty Pooh. There's some bees that get it on off screen that Conquer has to witness, and you just see his face reacting to all of it. There's a lot of iconic moments that I'm thinking about that I think in a sequel would just be so much fun to watch.
So would you want Rare to do it, or would you want Microsoft to bring in someone else to do it and then have Rare as like a producer of a like would you bring in a different developer, like maybe the ones who did the South Park games or like Playtonic, have them do it, or would you let modern Rare make it?
That's tough. I think if Playtonic did something like this, and this is actually a possibility of something that could come out, because the Impossible Layer came out already a year and a half ago, so it's coming up to about a time when I would expect a game announcement. To maybe this summer they might announce a new game, and if they release or announce a M-rated game, it might not be Conquer specifically, but the same people who made Conquer could make a Ukulele Universe game that's rated M, and that would be fantastic. But as far as actually Conquer the Squirrel, I think that, I would have to be Rare, because just legally. But if they brought somebody else in and they were willing to work with Playtonic to make a new Rare game, the actual creators of Conquer, that would be a dream come true. Because obviously I want Banjo back, but to have Conquer back would be a lot of fun, because that would be something that could make a lot of new fans. So yeah, I guess Rare would probably have to be the ones working on it, but if they brought in Playtonic, that'd be the best case scenario.
Nice.
I would play the shit out of that game.
Yeah, and someday I will stream it. I will stream it for us whenever I can manage that from the N64 to stream. But
yeah.
Or I guess it's on Rare Replay. So
yeah, you have to get an Xbox for that, or a good PC. But you could do that. Yeah. It'd be fun if that would be one of my my purchases if I were to get the Series X. That'd be probably one of my earlier purchases, is getting the Rare Replay, so I could go play games like Conquer and Banjo and all that. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
I think since we see a lot of Playtonic's studio made up of a bunch of former members of Rare, like there's some people on there that definitely probably were a part of the original Conquer development, so it'd be fun to see them do that and come back and make a sequel, or in a spiritual successor to it. Who knows? Maybe Microsoft will let someone else do it, and then have Rare give their blessings for it. And
Playtonic actually just sent an email out yesterday from the day of recording, that they are planning on. They were very vague and said that we're going to send more details out in the coming weeks, months, and years. But they said that they're going to rebrand. They didn't explain what that means. They just said we're rebranding, and they said we've got a lot of news coming up. And so I don't know if that means that their name is going to change, or if it's going to be as small as just a logo change, or if they're going to be absolved into another studio. I'm not really sure, but hopefully it's nothing too serious. I love that they're their own studio. I hope that it stays like that for at least another 5 years, so then they can kind of figure out what they're doing before they join with somebody else. But up until the recording of this, I always assumed that their next game would be a kart racer, just because they're kind of following their own best ofs, if you will. They did Ukulele which was a copy of Banjo. They did the Impossible Lair, which was a copy of DKC, and I assumed that they'd copy DKR with some sort of kart racer. So, but now that we're talking about Conquer, I would absolutely love to have some cutesy characters in the Ukulele universe, but pick one or two characters and make them the Conquer-esque rated M game, very mature game that could be their next one. I would love to see that.
For sure. Oh man, I'm excited to see what can come from this. I hope that out of all these, I hope that yours is the one that's the most right. As much as I would like that you're off Call of Duty, and it'd be nice to see another band, a better output by Greta Van Fleet. I think it'd just be like fun for gaming to see this come back, because you think about it too, like you mentioned. Let's say there's a whole group of people that's around our age that parents accidentally bought them Conquer on the 64 back in 2001, that are now adults, that would that they would love that nostalgia trip of playing a Conquer sequel or a Conquer-esque game as an adult. Sure, some of the jokes would probably feel a little too try-hardy, but it would still be fun, I think. And so I hope we get this one.
Yeah, this would be a dream come true. Connor, what do you think about it?
I think it would open up a floodgate of possibilities for IPs coming back if it were to be revamped and revived and revamped for modern age. And if they were willing to bring back Conquer, who knows what else they would bring back. And I would sit down and play that with you, play the crap out of it.
Oh yeah,
play it so hard.
Yeah, please. Yeah. Nintendo, work with Microsoft. Get on the Switch. That'd be fun. But Microsoft, just do this. You have all these IPs that people love in Rare, and then I get that the people at Rare they want to do new projects as well. But they just did that Battletoads new game. Let someone make a new game, whether it's Rare or a different studio. With all these studios you keep acquiring, let Bethesda do it. You can let a Bethesda studio do it if they really want to, but let's see a new one. So
yeah, and as much as I want a Banjo game, I would be, even though I'm obviously a bigger Banjo fan than I am a Conquer fan, if they made a Conquer game, a sequel before they ever worked on anything Banjo, I would still be very happy. I'm sure there'd be a lot of people out there who are, pissed off about it and saying, oh, why would you do this when it's obvious we want Banjo? But me, I would be willing to wait for Banjo, just because Conquer would be a good thing to tide me over. And we are very short on M-rated games, and especially M-rated platformers. I honestly can't think of a single M-rated platformer outside of Conquer. So just any kind of sequel or a pseudo-sequel, or a, what's the term that they used? Oh gosh, I can't remember. Spiritual successor. And if Platonic did a spiritual successor, then that would be great too. But yeah, I think now is the time. I mean, of course, time was also 10 years ago, but now is still the time.
Awesome. Well, hopefully we get it'd be nice if we got all of ours, but I think we all had some nice things we can do to kind of fix some things that we enjoy. So then with that, we can move on into recommendations, which, Johnny, it was your turn last week, so you gave us Death to 2020, which was a Netflix kind of a mockumentary, documentary, comedy special thing to recap the garbage year of 2020. So, Connor, let's start with your thoughts on it.
Well, I didn't really know much about it at all. I didn't really know anything about it when I went into it, and so it met my zero expectations, and I had a ton of fun with this. I had no idea that it was going to be comedy. I thought it was going to be just completely serious for whatever reason. I don't know why Johnny would recommend something like that, but I thought it was the most Johnny thing ever recommended because seriously, I thought it was so funny, but yet it was able to recap something so well and in such a good humor that suits our generation especially. And it made me realize that even though I thought 2020 was long, I forgot just how long it was.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah. And all the, you go ahead.
People make the jokes about how there could be a history class on just the Trump administration or just the last couple of years. There could legitimately could be a college history class on just 2020, and it would be insane. Because one of the things they didn't even mention things like how the entire sports world was shocked with Kobe's death, or how all sports shut down in March, and how everything was that way. There were so many things that happened with sports, with entertainment, with the election, and then you throw in on top of all that these fires and explosions, and then COVID. There was so many different things that just piled on one after another. There was always those jokes of, January 2020 brought us Kobe's death, February brought us the threat of and the Arizona fires. We had the World War III threat. We had this. What's going to come in June and stuff like that. And it just was insane with all the different stuff.
Yeah, I thought the hosts were fantastic. They were all hilarious, especially what's her name, who was the mom from How I Met Your Mother,
Kristen Milioti.
Yeah, the
Karen
conspiracy theorist Karen. Yeah, that was so hilarious.
Well, I feel like all of their all of the characters they're portraying were all really well done. yeah, she was great. Kamali, John G. Cameron, the CEO of Shrieker, the technology company, like all the different stuff he would say to do, how he was in his like bunker inside a mountain, and all of the different stuff Leslie Jones did. Is that like all the characters were perfect. Like probably my least favorite character of all of them was Joe Carey's gig economy millennial, because that one I feel like they were maybe trying a little too hard with some of the stuff, but like it was still funny. There were so many times where I was laughing out loud, especially all the times that they referred to Biden as like older than dirt and like Civil War veteran Joe Biden and just all those different things. It was, I also really enjoyed this. Abby and I watched it together last night, the day before we recorded this, and there were so many times that we just kept laughing. It was nice that they did a more serious, like they handled the George Floyd and subsequent protests after very well, I think too, because like they did a pretty serious moment for it, and how they had Samuel L. Jackson and Leslie Jones be the ones I was talking about a lot of it first as black actors. And then they had their serious moment and talked about like how like, it's kind of the thing that broke Camel's back. Then they brought in Kathy Flowers to do her whole Karen thing as well, and then bring some comedy back into it. So I think they did a perfect way of talking about the death of George Floyd as a serious thing, and then still having fun with it, with Trump's photo op and just all the other. It would be
easy for that part to be tasteless, but they made it work.
Exactly. Yeah, I also really. This is definitely one of my favorite recommendations we've had. Now, I was expecting to be solid, but I wasn't going in thinking this was going to be one that I was going to spend an hour constantly laughing, and so I was pleasantly surprised to have a bunch of laugh out loud moments in there. So, Johnny, I mean, thank you for recommending this. Obviously,
heck yeah.
How many times did you watch this before you recommended it as well, or were you planning on watching it as well?
Yeah, I watched this when it came out. I believe it came out at the end of the year, and I'd seen it, pretty much the day that it came out. So yeah,
I also liked the all the stuff at the end when they had the joke and they predicting the events of 2021 with Trump's news network coming off the air after only a month, and President Harris's big plan and
watch those both be completely correct.
Probably, but man, what a crazy year 2020 was. I'm glad that 2021 hasn't been off to a good start, but I am glad that we are done with 2020 and that we are moving on.
So how would you guys rate, how would you rate the year of 2020? But then how would you rate
2020 0 out of 10? Would not recommend it. I mean,
on a scale of 0 to 10, definitely a negative 3,000.
I mean, I did get some good things in 2020. Rosa is made 2020 bearable, more than bearable, because she is the best bean. But also, like, there's so many other things. It just thinking about all the different stuff, and like when they showed when they were showing stuff from the first presidential debate, I got super anxious again, like I did that night, and I was just like, or like the election stuff, just like all the stress.
I remember.
I felt that wave of stress that I had during the election when they were showing the election coverage of the different stuff on CNBC and all that. I was just like, oh, no thanks. I think what's another funny one too is Lisa Kudrow's Janetta
Trump
Grace
advisor
Susan,
thing,
like the non-official conservative spokeswoman. Like,
it was so funny.
It was that was probably the most on the nose character in the entire thing, even more than the Karen.
She was like, Ukraine doesn't even exist.
Yeah, and then she would backtrack, and she looked so much.
She'd say something and then say, "I didn't say that." And you literally just said it. No, that wasn't me. I never said that.
She looked so much perfect. Like
Kellyanne Conway.
Kellyanne Conway and the last press secretary. It was like if Kellyanne Conway and Trump's last press secretary had a child, it would be her.
Yes.
Yeah, excellent recommendation. The 2020 sucks, but the recommendation of Death to 2020, I would give a 9 out of 10 conspiracy theories.
Okay, and Connor,
let's see. I would definitely give this a 9 out of 10 crazy racist Karens asking black people if that is their dialysis machine.
Oh my God. Do you have a permit? Do you have a permit to be here?
Do you have a receipt for this towel? It was just so hilarious.
Oh my God. It was really funny. This whole movie or documentary, mockumentary, I should say, was really funny, but it was, all of it was a reminder. Like you said, just the presidential election gave me, even the jokes about it gave me the anxiety I felt during the actual, or not presidential election. Well, yes, that, but also the debates. The whole video was like that for me because of, the Karens and the, all of the things that happened, everybody's reaction to it, and the bringing up the masks and how people didn't want to wear them. Oh gosh.
Wear your goddamn motherfucking mask.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. Actually, not please, do it. Like,
yes.
There's no gentle.
No more please. We asked for please, and please wasn't enough. Please was fascism.
True. Before we do move on to Connor's one, there actually is a fun line. I want to shout out my buddy Andrew Wegley of the Missourian. He got some death threat. We got some threats though from people in Maryville because of him writing a column on a city council meeting that was nothing to do with what the Grace Group wanted. But I'm going to read a line from his column he had this past week because it reminds me of people wearing their masks. While downplaying threats is painfully on brand for a group of citizens who are largely up in arms about having to wear a piece of cloth over their mouths as a deadly invisible virus has killed more than 2 million people globally floats through the air. It is exactly this dismissible behavior that allows threats to escalate, which of course is what happened. And
yes.
It's like those Karens and those Chads that were wanted to go to Applebee's. And it's the reason why we are still having the effects of the pandemic. Just wear your mask. It's okay. You are fine. So, but with that tangent, we move on. Connor, it is your turn for a recommendation. So, what do you have for us this week?
Guys, I so wish I could recommend something as funny and lighthearted maybe as that recommendation, because how do you follow up that? But I'm not going to have something like that. I'm actually wanting to pay tribute to my radio icon, Larry King, who passed away this morning at the young age of 87. I mean, he's had cancer twice. He's had a quintuple bypass surgery. He had pneumonia twice, and COVID. Who would have guessed that he was going to die this young? So I am actually going to be recommending clips of interviews, some of his most legendary interviews, for you guys to watch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in total. Okay. They're going to be some serious subject matter. It's actually going to be 6 because one of them you get to choose which one you watch. But some of them is serious subject matter, and others, one in particular is going to be really, really hilarious. And it's less than 1 minute long, but I wanted to. It was huge news actually, and I wanted to just include it because it's an iconic moment. With one of TV's most beloved comedians. So I'm going to be having you guys watch, and I'll list it out here, and then I'll also, don't worry, I'll be linking each of these clips on the doc. Larry King Live with John Lennon's murderer, Mark David Chapman, which was just groundbreaking journalism. Donald Trump and Melania Trump announcing their marriage, talking about their marriage in 2005. The full Lady Gaga interview from 2010. It's only 10 minutes long. And you get to choose between clip 1 or clip 2 of Larry King's interview with Mike Tyson when he was in prison, when he was like 25 or 26. Then the famous Donald Trump interview from 1987 where he was like, no, I definitely don't want to be president. I'm not going to be running for president. Which,
LOL.
Yeah. Do you guys get it?
I get it.
And then the 59-second clip of Jerry Seinfeld tearing Larry King a new asshole for thinking that he got canceled.
For our listeners, I want to add the 39-second clip on YouTube called Larry, I'm on DuckTales.
You guys should watch that. It's hilarious.
Just watch that it's Danny Pudi, who's famous, obviously from DuckTales, but originally known from Community, talking with Larry King about luxuries. And it is it's only 39 seconds, but it is a wild 39 seconds. So.
It is so good. The question was like, what are luxuries that you can't live without? And he's just so humble. He actually is though. How his answers are super humble, and I love it.
Yeah, Danny Pudi is humble compared to Larry King's more extravagant side. So.
Yes, perfect. Yeah. Well, I'm excited to watch these, Connor. It'll be fun to go experience some of his iconic stuff. As you know, since we did lose him the day of our recording, so a few days after this episode goes live, everyone will still be kind of mourning the loss. But this will be a fun one to remember. Just a big career that he had. Yeah, it's insane, like how
63 years or something like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, he was active until this just happened. Like he was still doing stuff. Like obviously, his work has gone down a lot as he's gotten older, but he was still working just before his death, so it's crazy.
Yes, and he's often been attributed with the invention of Twitter because of his articles, his news columns, his opinion pieces, and he just called it. I think it was called like My 2 Cents or something like that. And he would just write quick, like few sentences, 3 sentences, and put it out there. And that's where a lot of people think the idea for Twitter came from. But so just a true juggernaut of the media and one of the most trusted journalists of all time.
Yeah, for sure. So awesome. And I am looking forward to listening to and watching some of these clips again. So be sure to also do that as well if you would like to join Johnny and I and Connor in reliving these clips. So time to wrap up the episode then. So as a reminder, this podcast is sponsored by Anchor, the easiest way to make a podcast. Visit anchor.fm to start your own. This podcast is also sponsored by ByLightFixtures.com. Visit ByLightFixtures.com for a trusted source of quality lighting products for your business or home. Once again, a big thank you to Tom Taylor of Tailored Beats for the intro and outro of this podcast as well. You can find him on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/tailoredproductions. And of course, don't forget to follow us on social media. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook and Twitch as well as obviously our YouTube that you may be listening. If you're listening on Spotify, then look us up on YouTube as well and give us that big old subscribe. And as we are approaching our 50th episode, and just from our regular plans for 2021, like I mentioned last week, a big plan we have is using our social media more, using streaming more. So we're going to have some more stuff of branching out while still having the Rocket Talk podcast as the main focus. And then also to another shout out again to our friend Hollie with her Hollie Pop Crayon Shop. That's HOLLIE Pop Crayon Shop. On Etsy, you can get a nice custom crayon work done by her. Hollie is wonderful. We have to have her on the show at some point.
We do. We definitely do.
Why haven't we? She has
a lot of really good nerd cred, so she would definitely fit in. And then she obviously can plug hers as well. So, Hollie, if you're listening to this, then we're definitely going to have you on soon. If you're not, then we're still going to have you on soon. So that'll be fun what to do. But with that, that'll wrap up episode 48. Like I mentioned at the start of the episode, episode 50 is only a couple weeks away, and that's going to be a fun one. We have a bunch of former guests joining us to discuss a lot of different stuff. I'm not going to give away the big topic yet, but I will give you a hint that it is involved with the name of our podcast and our channel name. So those detectives, use your detective skills. Who knows? But that will do it for this episode. So we will see you guys next week.